Hey everybody, my name is Ashley Rush and I am an independent creative memories advisor located in North Carolina. Today I'm doing some of my favorite videos. This one is about project recipes. If you are not familiar with project recipes, where have you been? Under a rock? So they are my favorite. They are something created by Creative Memories Home Office for each and every single one of the collections they come out with. They are cutting guides used to make a 2-page spread. But the most amazing thing about project recipes is you can recycle and reuse them over and over and over again, just changing out the collection, changing out the tools used to create totally unique layouts. So this recipe is actually from 2016. It is old, like 6 years old, and it is for the Painted Harvest collection. But I will be revamping it and using it today with our brand new Golden Harvest collection. I hope you guys enjoy. To complete this recipe, I am using 3 coordinated sheets of Golden Harvest, a coordinating piece of cardstock, in this case it is Hot Fudge. I'm using the Autumn Leaves decorative border punch, my tape runner, and my 12-inch trimmer. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you need to do is choose your base papers. I will be using 1 piece of cardstock as a base as well as 1 piece of paper. So I'm going to use this decorative leaf pattern as my base. I know you guys watch me struggle to pair different papers as bases as opposed to being matchy-matchy. I am going to do it this time for real. And I think part of what's going to help me is that the base of this decorative paper is pretty brown. So even though they're not the same, it's like a brown base and a brown base. And I think that's going to help my head really wrap itself around this concept. All right, so now that we've chosen our base, now we get to choose our next piece of paper. So one of these pieces of paper is going to form a chunky border and some mats, and then the other is going to be a decorative border as well as some mats. With the piece of paper that I'm using to create the decorative border, I will be using all one side, and then the other sheet I may be flipping back and forth, so that may help me choose. All right, I don't really like this plaid paper paired with the others, so I'm going to be using the whole green sheet here, which means that is what I'm going to be pairing with my decorative border. This sheet will only be straight cuts, so let's go ahead and do that one. The very first one is a 2-inch border. All right, you're going to do that one more time. Now I'll be making a 3.5-inch cut. I'm going to set that larger piece aside for just a second. I'm going to take that 3.5-inch piece, give it a 1/4 turn, and I'm going to make a 4.5-inch cut twice. So here's the first one. This square, or rectangle I guess, is extra. You can set that aside. Now I'm going to pull back out that big remaining piece, and I'm going to make a 3.5-inch cut. This thin piece is extra. You can set that aside. Now with that 3.5 inch piece, I'm going to give it a 1/4 turn, and I'm going to make several 3-inch cuts so that I end up with 4 3.5 by 3-inch squares or rectangles. So there's the first. The second. And the third cut, so that I get my 4 rectangles. All right, now I'm going to take that last piece of paper and I'm going to use it to cut 2 autumn leaves decorative borders. Now, we will be using the leftover of this piece. When you find a project recipe that calls for you to punch, it's always important to punch first. It's going to be easier to punch when you have a larger sheet than it will be once you have like remnants and small strips. So if you've never seen me use the border punch before, you slide your paper into the punch and rest it on what I call the whale tail here. You're going to make sure the paper goes all the way to the top of the whale tail, and you're going to line it up using one of these 2 notches. And that's just so you know where to start your paper. So I usually rest my paper on the right whale tail and then use the notch on the left to start my paper. Once you punch, you slide over, and you're going to take the decorative design and you're going to make it mirror the blue design on your whale tail. And that's how you know that you are punching at the right point. You're actually going to do that twice. All right, I'm going to clear up my punch poop here. You are done with your punch. You can close that up and put it away. All right, I'm going to take that remaining paper and I'm going to make a 4.5 inch cut. I'm going to give that a 1/4 turn and do another 4.5 inch cut. And now I'm going to do a 6.5 inch cut. All right, this little strip is extra. You can set that aside. And I'm going to do the same with this one. First, I'm going to make sure it's 4.5. This edge is going to be a little wavy because I used that side on my, my decorative border punch. As you can see, I just had a very thin and uneven strip there. All right, so I'm going to make a 4.5 inch cut. Followed by a 6.5 inch cut. And then I have one little piece left over. So that is it for our cuts. We can go ahead and set our trimmer aside. Now it's a time to assemble. All right, the first thing we're going to do is take these 2-inch orange borders, and those are going to go at the bottom of our pages. Okay. Our leaf border is going to go along the edge of those two borders where they meet, kind of giving it a nice transition piece. Our big 4.5 by 6.5 inch mats are going to go on the lower outside corners. And then the squares, these are 4.5 by 4.5 inch squares, go on the inside upper corners. And then you've got two different size rectangles left. You have your 3.5 by 3 inch rectangles, as well as your 3.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. The 3.5 by 4 inch rectangles are going to go down here, and the 3.5 by 3s are going to go up here. Now you can play around with switching the rectangles around. There is a beautiful brown pattern, but I feel like it almost blends too much with the hot fudge background. Over here, it looks really nice, but then it's the only place we see that pattern. So I don't want to just have it here and not over here. So I think I'm gonna opt for just doing all one pattern all the way across. Now when you're lining up your papers, the orange, this 3.5 by 4.5 rectangle, is not even with the 4.5 by 6.5. It is budged up a little bit. The smaller rectangles are going to be evenly spaced with the 4.5 by 6.5 inch mat, and this 4.5 by 4.5 inch square will also be not even with those smaller rectangles. So once you are happy with the placement of your mats, you can go ahead and start adhering. All right, we are now finished with our recipe. Now you've got room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different photos. These large pieces are big enough for a standard 4x6. The squares are great for 4x4s. And then you could just trim down your other rectangles here. These ones are 3.5 by 3, so like a 3 by 2.5 perhaps. And then these ones are 3.5 by 4.5, so maybe like a 3 by 4 photo here. Now, for embellishing, you would want to, you know, create some sort of triangle. So perhaps if you did a cluster here, and then either here or here, and then one over in this opposite corner, you'll have a great triangle to pull your focus across the page. You could easily use one of these squares for a title or journaling, or even some title or journaling in one of the smaller rectangles. It's really up to you. Now, another fun thing, this is a great recipe to be rotated. So like if we were to turn it this way, isn't that a fun recipe design? Like I really love the leaves going up and down, sort of like falling leaves. Or, you know, you could do the other way with the leaves in the middle. I like it, I think, better with the leaves on the outside. It sort of creates that that anchor. All right, so I did this before I started, and I originally set out to design the my sample like this, with the borders going up and down and to the side. But once I created it, I ended up turning it just upside down, and it was beautiful. So originally I had done it like this, and I was like, oh, it's the pumpkin and the vine climbing up. But I went ahead and turned it this way and was very happy. So I took a 4x6 variety mat, and I cut 2 inches off, and I have used that as a title area. And then I will probably journal. I'm going to add like a little journaling box over here. But that still leaves me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, I'm not sure what just happened. I seem to have lost the feed. I was saying that I have 8 photo spots left even after I journal over here. So I love that this layout has lots of spots for our photos, and it is so versatile. So for this one, I still used the Golden Harvest papers, but for my border here, I used Leafy vine instead of autumn leaves. I just thought I was kind of trying to pull in those pumpkins, and I think it still looks really cute. What do you guys think? And then on this recipe, I went with the original, whatever color the decorative border is, you keep those large mats that color, and then the smaller mats you flip over and use both sides. I don't know if you guys saw this, and I didn't mention after I was finished, but I ended up swapping my large mats and just bringing in one more texture, because the orange and greens were getting a little bit repetitive. Although I loved the brown on the reverse of this orange one, it was just hard to use with the dark brown paper. If I had done navy base instead of hot fudge, it probably would have looked really good. But I think it still looks good with the plaid, even though I said I wasn't going to use the plaid because it was going to be too busy. So it's not a scrap with Ash video unless I find a way to change my mind. So what did you guys think of that recipe? Wasn't it super easy? I love that we only had to cut 2 sheets of paper, and we created a really fun, colorful layout, perfect for all of your fall photos. Did you guys like the blue one with the navy? So like the blues, the yellows, the oranges. I really like how this one turned out. I loved that I flipped it upside down to give it something new. And guys, I love the pumpkin paper. I'm really excited to use this with our pumpkin patch photos this fall. Or were you guys a fan of what I'm calling the brown recipe that I did with the original intention, with the border and the decorative border at the bottom? I like how this turned out. I like that I like pulled an audible in the middle of creating and used that plaid paper to create the big 4.5 by 6.5 inch photo openings. It was really fun to create. I love that we have 2 different punches right now that work great for fall photos. I have the leafy vine as well as the autumn leaves. So I think I like the blue one better. I just love the yellows and the oranges. I mean, I know I had orange on the brown one, but the blue one just speaks to me. And it also, so I live in North Carolina. It is warm here. So something about the blues partnered with the yellows and the oranges, I don't know, I feel like it makes it feel warmer, even though blue is a cool color. I can just see us with our short sleeves and our shorts going to the pumpkin patch, and for whatever reason, that to me goes on blue instead of brown. I know that makes 0 sense to any of you, but it does in my head, and I guess that's all that matters. So I'd love to hear which one you guys like best, and I'd love to see pictures of you guys creating this recipe as well. So if you create it, make sure you post it on Facebook or Instagram and then tag me at Scrap with Ash. And you can go ahead and follow me on those platforms as well. That is where I am posting daily content. It is the best way to get in touch with me, and it's just a nice way for us all to connect in between videos week to week. And then if you're looking for more inspiration, make sure you check out some of my classes and events. I host in-person and virtual events, so there's something out there for everybody. And then if you see anything in this video that you love, make sure you check out my Creative Memories website as well for all of your scrapbooking needs. And if you are a die-hard avid scrapbooker, a big Creative Memories fan, let's talk about you joining my team. I am really focusing on growth this year, and I would love to have you grow alongside me. I am working on challenges to improve my business, and it would be a great time for you to join because you can learn about your business while I'm doing these. All right, so just shoot me a message if you want more information about that. In the meantime, I guess that's it for this week. I look forward to seeing you guys all next week as well. Bye!